Just a robot.
Doing that video on Our Game's Racist was a lot of hard work. I gotta lay down and recharge my batteries. Hang on, what's this? Oh, looks like someone did a commentary on me. Well, I guess I'll watch it before I recharge my batteries.
So a political commentator decides to step away from doing what they normally do to talk about Pokemon, and failed every which way you cut it.
Never mind, looks like I'm staying up for a little bit longer to do a commentary on this video. I'll just take a 5-hour energy power cell.
So, how well does he know his Pokemon? Well, let's find out, shall we?
Just a robot.
You know what? I'm tired of doing videos on reactors and social justice warriors all the time. I want to take a break. Maybe I'll do a commentary on something that won't make me angry. Hey, what's this? 11 Pokemon that could destroy the world? Well, that doesn't sound so bad.
Okay, this is going to seriously bother me if I don't bring this up here. I get it, you're trying to be a robot, that's your character, but the way you speak is grating. It's as if you're a child trying to sound incredibly cool, but you wind up sounding more edgy than anything. It makes me want to play dodgeball in traffic.
It's always great when people start off a commentary with an ad hominem attack. Now, normally I don't care about ad hominem attacks, but the thing is, Doodletone does.
Even show off your real voice instead of using Speakonia. Use a different program. Or better yet, use your real voice.
Returning viewers will definitely know this, but the whole use your real voice argument seriously gets on my nerves. Same goes for the show us your real face argument. Neither of these critiques debunk anything anyone has to say. Instead, this is what is known as an ad hominem, which is basically something directed at a person instead of the argument that they hold.
So it's bad for Pikachu Gamer 64 to complain about someone using Speakonia, but it's a-okay for you to complain about me using a robot voice. You're such a hypocrite. I noticed that a lot of commentators do this. They complain about someone else making an ad hominem attack, but then they turn around and do it themselves. Also, your voice is not the best either, and I'm not the only one who thinks so.
So, today I'm doing a commentary on a commentary to a review.
Oh, goody. Another commentator that has a voice changer for one reason or another and doesn't realize how distracting and somewhat annoying the high pitch is. I mean, seriously, in what realm do you think that it's a good idea to sacrifice your quality for whatever reason you can cook up for raising the pitch so high? I mean, really, the only reason I can mix up as for why one would want to do this is if it was done ironically or for a character, and even then, the latter's kind of pushing it.
Now I know what some of you are thinking. Hey, in your commentary on MGTOW Gangster, you pointed out that his microphone quality was bad at the beginning of your commentary. And yes, while I did tell him that, I also told him where he can get a good microphone, and I said this. I know that my robot voice is not the most pleasant thing to listen to, but at the very least it's something new. So at the very least I acknowledge that my robot voice isn't that good.
I didn't want to end with this one.
Electrobe? Really?
Nor did I want to lead with it, or put it in the middle. I know this isn't a top 10, but you always have to save the best for last, and I wasn't sure if this one was the best, or the worst.
It's the worst, dude.
You, gonna explain why there, friend? I mean, saying that Electrode is just the worst Pokemon to choose for this list without explanation is rather unfortunate. I mean, you must know something I don't. Inform me, because as far as I'm concerned, Electrode isn't even the worst electric-type Pokemon for this list.
When I say it's the worst, I'm not saying it's the worst Pokemon ever. I'm saying it's the worst Pokemon on this list. Pay attention to what he says before I say it's the worst.
I know this isn't a top 10, but you always have to save the best for last, and I wasn't sure if this one was the best, or the worst.
If you want me to elaborate why it's the worst Pokemon on this list, he says this about it.
One Electrode alone would not be enough to destroy the world.
He doesn't say that about any of the other Pokemon, just Electrobe.
This is probably fine in the Pokemon world since we've seen them explode many times without causing too much damage, but that wouldn't be the same in our world. You see, Electrodes store their energy under very high pressure, so when they explode, you can be sure they will cause great damage. This probably isn't reflected in the anime because it's a kid's show. Electrode are also very attracted to electricity, and the problem is, only a small shock is enough to set them off. Actually, its Pokedex entry in Omega Ruby states that during thunderstorms, you can see Electrode exploding everywhere, which brings me to my next point. One Electrode alone would not be enough to destroy the world, but if all the Electrodes started blowing up, they definitely could.
If every electrobe's explosion was the size of a few megatons, then yeah, they could possibly destroy the world, but electrobe explosions are the size of grenade explosions. If every single grenade on Earth blew up, yeah, it would cause quite a lot of damage, but nowhere near enough to destroy the world.
Evidence, please? I mean, the burden of proof is on you. I can't find shit all that claims electrodes explosions are the size of grenades.
Well then, let's take a look at a few electrobe explosions.
それにマルマインは生き物なのかどうか未だに不明と言われておるが、そのわけはじゃな。おい、お口をあんしてごらん。
Okay, so our first example didn't do any damage to the laboratory or Professor Oak, but maybe the electrobe was just a low level. Let's take a look at some others.
I choose you. Wrong Pokemon.
Train that thing! Electrode!
Electrode.
Allahu Akbar.
Okay, this explosion was pretty big. However, you could make the argument that the explosion was a combined effort of the electrobe and the hot air balloon's fuel tank. Let's do 2 more. Now do you understand that electrobe explosions are around the size of grenade explosions, or do you need more proof?
We've seen the Pokemon world endure a lot of things, but one thing that almost destroyed it was a battle between this monster and its nemesis, Kyogre. I personally think that Groudon could destroy our world by merely being on it for a full day, if not less. This Pokemon is pretty much land itself. And what do we live on? Land. Volcanoes would erupt everywhere, earthquakes would be unmeasurable, and continents would break apart. You wanna know the scarier thing though? Groudon doesn't even have to go primal for any of it.
Well, if Groudon didn't destroy the Pokemon world, then what makes you think he can destroy our world?
Again, logic works differently in the Pokemon world. May I bring up the fact that Macargo can be hugged?
That is true, but maybe Macargo just doesn't want to burn her. In episode 33 of Pokemon, Ash Ketchum tried to ride Ponyta and got burnt. Later, he gained Ponyta's trust and was able to ride her. Maybe fire Pokemon can prevent their flames from doing damage to the ones they trust. As soon as he even starts to erupt volcanoes, America would just nuke him.
I mean, I could bring up the fact that Groudon is practically the god of land, bring up several hypotheticals that put you in an awkward position, or I could just take the easy way out and point to its Pokemon Emerald Pokédex entry where it says it just awakening this thing causes volcanoes to erupt.
Yeah, but how many volcanoes will erupt? 50? 500? All of them? All of them? The thing is, the Pokédex just says that volcanoes will erupt. Not all the volcanoes will erupt.
Also, the repercussions of killing a god that created the land we stand on is definitely something to take into account.
Whoa, what?
Also, the repercussions of killing a god that created the land we stand on is definitely something to take into account.
Groudon created the land in the Pokemon world, not the land in our world. Do you even know what you're talking about anymore?
This scenario would be similar to the one with Groudon, except oceans would overflow, thunderstorms would cause massive damage, and tsunamis would destroy everything. Kyogre doesn't need to go primal for any of it either.
Now, I could use the same argument I used for Groudon, but I'm going to do something else this time. Earlier in the video, you said this.
I'm talking about the actual destruction of the Earth, not humanity.
Now, if the Earth was flooded, it wouldn't be destroyed. It would just be, well, covered in water. What even is your definition of being destroyed? This is my definition of being destroyed.
Large amounts of flooding can't destroy the Earth until it does. Storms can't cause damage until they do.
Doodletones does this a lot. She seems to think me saying that something won't destroy the Earth equals it won't do any damage at all, which is completely false. It's kind of like if someone says, if the polar ice caps melted, the entire Earth would be destroyed. Then I come in and say, no, it wouldn't, it would just do a lot of damage. Then someone else shows up and says, what do you mean the polar ice caps melting won't do any damage whatsoever?
But more to the point. Water causes not only issues to civilization. If you want to take out civilization issues, then it can cause issues with erosion too. It can also kill all the plant life out on Earth if Kyogre fucking comes in with a flood. That wouldn't be out of place in the Pokemon Old Testament. And sure, while he breaks the rules of his own list, I'm not faulting you there. However, what I can fault you for is if you're only including natural issues.
The entire Earth being covered in water is not a natural issue.
It doesn't change the fact that Kyogre can do a lot of damage to the Earth as it is. Try again.
My argument isn't Kyogre can't do any damage. My argument is Kyogre can't do enough damage to destroy the Earth. Just because something can do a lot of damage to the Earth doesn't mean it can destroy the Earth.
On that note, math isn't my strong suit, so I'll be skipping the Mega Blastoise segment.
You have got to be kidding me! It doesn't matter if math is your strong suit or not. What he's saying is so blatantly wrong. He's saying that something that can rip through solid steel, increased by 50%, can destroy the Earth. That's like saying 1 plus 2 equals 420 octillion.
Arceus. Do I even have to explain this one? According to Sinnoh legend, this godly Pokemon created Sinnoh and possibly the entire Pokemon universe. And if that legend is true, it can most definitely destroy our tiny world, along with our entire universe.
I do agree with this point, but I have a small question. Do you think if the universe was 50% smaller, it would be the size of a galaxy? Just asking.
Well, I'm glad you actually have some logic in you. You can't really argue with a god that has shown himself to the world. However, what is with that random question at the end? Does it have anything to do with Carlos Mango or whatever had to say?
Actually, it does have to do with the video. You conveniently didn't put the clip in the video, but don't worry, I have it right here.
And seeing as how its special attack increases by 50 from 85 to 135 when it Mega Evolves, I don't want to know what the Pokedex would say if it could describe Mega Evolutions. Now this is pure speculation, but I think that Mega Blastoise's cannons could be enough to end the world as we know it.
Oh god, it's funny every single time.
Do you know how hot the surface of the sun is? 9,940 degrees Fahrenheit.
It's over 9,000!
But that's still not as hot as Magcargo's body temperature, which is almost double at 18,000 degrees Fahrenheit. This is obviously not a problem in the Pokemon world for whatever reason, but that wouldn't work here. Magcargo could destroy our world just by being close to it, and that probably makes it one of the most dangerous Pokemon on this list.
Now granted, that would cause a lot of damage, but nuclear explosions are far hotter and way bigger than a few 100,000 Magcargos.
This does not prove Mango Man wrong, though. All you really do is imply nukes don't do damage to the Earth on their own.
What? My argument is, we have things on Earth that are way hotter than twice the surface of the sun. If they can't destroy the Earth, then Magcargo can't destroy the Earth. And not just nukes, we have plasma cutters that are far hotter than Magcargo.
You don't prove the point. Magcargo would practically hurt the Earth.
Oh, I see. You thought my argument was that Magcargo couldn't do any damage. Except for the fact that I said this. Now granted, that would cause a lot of damage, but maybe his argument wasn't Magcargo could destroy the Earth. Maybe his argument was Magcargo would just hurt the Earth. Except for the fact that he said this.
Magcargo could destroy our world just by being close to it.
Oh god, it's funny every single time.
Seeing as it's approximately 2 times hotter than the sun, if my grade school math is correct.
He's only twice as hot as the surface of the sun. Here's how hot the sun's core is.
The sun alone, if it was closer to our Earth, hell, the sun as it is now can cause wildfires. Being in Colorado, I should know this firsthand. Imagining what it would do if it was closer to the Earth makes me wonder, how can you argue this point is...
Just because something is as hot as something doesn't mean it's as powerful. The sun is several times bigger than the Earth, and Magcargo is the size of a dog.
Especially seeing as Magcargo, being in the woods would kill probably half the wildlife in that woods. You know, partially destroying the world.
Well, partially destroying the Earth doesn't equal destroying the whole Earth. Also, another thing about Magmar. He's clearly either made out of a liquid or a solid, not a plasma or a gas. Now I know that doesn't sound very important, but give me a second to explain. If a liquid is at the same temperature of a plasma, this means that the atomic energy is considerably greater. Basically, even if a liquid was at the same temperature of a plasma, it would still do less damage because it reacts less violently to the things around it. Now I know what some of you might be thinking. What if Magmar was made out of plasma? Well, the good news is we have everything we need to do the math. Magmar's weight is roughly 120 pounds, and his temperature is roughly 18,000 degrees Fahrenheit. After me and Professor Dreadlock did a bunch of complicated math stuff, Magmar's destructive force came out to be 4.117 times 10 to the 8th power joules of energy. Let's put that in perspective. A 1 megaton explosion has the destructive force of 4.184 times 10 to the 15th power joules of energy. The nuclear bomb known as Little Boy had a destructive force of over 2 megatons. Basically, it would take about 20 million Macargos made out of plasma to equal that level of destruction. If you want to see our work, it will be down in the description.
I feel like we've gone through every possible scenario of how our world could end, but the entire planet freezing? Yeah, I don't think we've covered that yet. Out of all the Ice-type legendary Pokemon, Kyurem is probably the only one that can accomplish that. During Black 2 and White 2, Team Plasma froze Opelucid City with the help of Kyurem and some technology. But that's the Pokemon world. If we've learned anything during all of this, it's that the Pokemon world is a lot more resistant than ours. So I have no doubt in my mind that Kyurem could freeze our entire planet and end life as we know it.
The only thing we learned so far is that you're an idiot. Even if your argument about the Pokemon world being more resistant than our world was correct, it would have to be a few million times more resistant. Here's the landmass of New York City, and this is the landmass of the entire Earth. You may have noticed that the landmass of the entire Earth is a bit more than 50% bigger than New York City. No, I'm not going to let that go.
So, the Pokemon world isn't more resistant than the human world.
What? Can you even speak English? My argument isn't the Pokemon world is not more resistant. My argument is, if it is more resistant, it would have to be a few million times more resistant. Yeah, the Pokemon world is probably more resistant. But you can't just say something that would destroy a city in one world would destroy the entire planet in another world. Also, if the planet did freeze over, humanity still could survive.
Huh, there's a specific Pokemon you didn't discredit that proves you wrong. Wonder who it could be. Oh right, Macargo discredits your whole argument here. Hey Robot, do me a huge favor and go hug the sun. Just get into a rocket ship and fly to the sun, then tell me how their world isn't more resistant to shit like that.
Just a lightning bolt explosion often exceeds the heat of 90,000 degrees Fahrenheit. That's roughly 5 times hotter than Macargo.
It really goes to show you that point at the beginning of this video where you say there's no difference between our world and Pokemon. It turns out knowing that they aren't can really help the original list out.
Except for the fact that I didn't. I said that the Pokemon world is based off our own world.
Ditto can transform into anything it sees, so that technically means anything, right? Then it would be really unfortunate if a Ditto came to Earth and decided to destroy it, because it totally could. Think about any day in your life. What do you usually see outside? The sun. If Ditto wanted to destroy the planet, all it would have to do is transform into the sun while on Earth. That alone would instantly destroy the planet.
I don't think it's ever implied in any of the shows or any of the games that Ditto can transform into something that big or that far away.
Well, no, but there's nothing that implies Electro's explosion is comparable to that of a grenade either.
Aloha Bar. Also, Mew has the ability to transform, so shouldn't she or he or it be on the list?
Well, Ditto is much more known for transformation, and even if he was, this doesn't prove the original guy wrong. Look, Robot, I don't fault you for the majority of these mistakes. Honestly, the fact that you weren't looking at the differences between the two worlds, which is where a lot of this original list comes from, is where a lot of the issues from your video comes from.
But I do know that the Pokemon world is more resistant than our world. However, you can't just say something that would freeze over a city in the Pokemon world would freeze our entire planet over in our world. Yes, we do know that the Pokemon world is more resistant than our world, but we don't know how much more resistant it is. Here are my final thoughts on you. When I saw you were doing a commentary on my only video that was about an anime, and I saw you had a profile picture that looked like this, here was my reaction.
Ah yes, the weeaboos back at it again.
Before watching this crappy commentary by this weeaboo, I was having a pretty good day. I got my body waxed, I got new butt plates, and someone made a fan video about me. You guys should totally check it out. Link will be down below, and I'll even comment it down below. But now, oh my god, I'm really exhausted. I gotta go recharge my batteries. I hope Professor Dreadlock makes some hot oil for me in the morning.